Sustainability architect Paul Marais shows us how he lives what he believes in his environmentally conscious home in Magaliesburg.
Award-winning architect Paul Marais has been focused on sustainable building for the past 30 years.
How incredible! His doctorates in ecological building and his natural building company, Simply Sustainable, have made him a global leader in green architecture.
Oh yes, Ayanda, absolutely. He's also the designer and owner of the beautiful Marais property that we're in today.
Paul's journey in sustainable architecture began in 2004 with his move to the Magaliesburg. Exploring ecological building design, he became expert in clean and sustainable housing.
Paul, this looks so amazing. I feel like I'm in a bit of a cave, but still a modern cave.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite interesting because I actually based my designs on cave buildings, and I think people here related to caves. All the early buildings are all caves in southern Africa, and in fact underneath where we're standing there is a really cave-like house that I've created below this.
Tell me more about your experience as an architect.
Initially I started as an architect. I studied at Wits, and then I went and I worked at the National Health Service in the UK, designing hospitals, and then I came back to South Africa, and then I decided to transition to sustainable architecture. It's something that always interests me. In fact, I did my thesis back in the 80s on sustainable architecture. And one bit of feedback I had at that time was that there wasn't really any academic work to back up my ideas. So part of my life has actually been creating that body of work.
What's your design approach when it comes to eco-friendly living, whether it's corporate spaces or residential living?
It's very much determined on the site and obviously the location. If we're doing a house up in, and I've done some work in Botswana, that's a very, very hot and dry climate, so that can have different design results than what I've done in Cape Town, where it can be quite cold in winter. So here in this building we have very big verandas, overhangs, so that we get protection, because in summer here it's really hot. Okay, we also want to be warm enough in winter, so the floor and the walls, they can store quite a lot of energy. So the idea is that they heat up during the day and that energy comes in through at night.
Paul's rammed earth technique uses all natural raw materials like earth, lime, chalk and gravel.
Talk to us about the idea and concept of rammed earth buildings and its revival.
Rammed earth is a very ancient technique. On our eastern side we have a big rammed earth wall. So I really like building with earth because it just makes the quality of the space so much better.
For myself, I think it's particularly interesting being able to see the different colors and textures that it's able to exude. I mean, it truly is such a masterpiece within itself.
It's got a big aesthetic beauty, but it's also got a fantastic thermal ability. There is a little bit of a sort of hippie movement behind green architecture. And so people sort of think, you know, it's going back to live in the way that we used to live thousands of years ago. There's no reason why green living needs to be backward looking. I mean, we look backwards to see some good technologies, but essentially it's a forward living way. And it's a way that we live with the world in a much more meaningful way.
This architect also revels in interior design, exploring the concept of connecting to nature with old, refurbished furniture pieces which transmit a natural and earthen feel.
Paul, stepping into this space, I feel like I've been teleported straight back to Ugogo's lounge, my Gogo Epizana.
I've got a lot of old furniture, and some actually from my Gogo, my grandmother.
And you have been able to add those personal touches, even some from your travels.
There are a lot of interesting things. I have a very nice statue behind me of Marais, and going up to see the eclipse in Zimbabwe, and driving past at 120, I spotted this beautiful statue and I had to have it.
And that idea of furniture choices, how have you been able to upcycle past materials and revamp and make it all new?
Well, yeah, no, I like to get old furniture and often fix it. The dresser along the side of the rammed earth wall, that was actually a throwaway. I have an old radiogram that I've turned into a modern music center, so I can play my music on a 1930s thing. So I use a lot of old materials. And in some ways, even the rammed earth is an old material that we've repurposed.
Coming from the outside, stepping in, that transition didn't feel jarring. So what was your approach when it comes to indoor-outdoor living?
This living space, for example, really is a good example of that. So both to the south you can move out and the level is the same, but we have also used the same material as indoor as outdoor, so the floor is seamless. And then you go into a lawn, and then we actually go out through a little bit of a cultured garden and into the felt. So there is this transition, because it's very important that you actually have transition spaces. If you just come from the outside to the inside, you never really feel at ease.
And coming up those stairs, I couldn't help but notice that eco-friendly pool.
Yeah, so the pool and the roof of the house collects water to fill the pool. Actually collects water in a central gutter and it feeds it into the pool. And the pool is filtered by a reed bed and with a little bubble pump pumping the water past the roots that purifies the water. And you'll see the pool is crystal clear without any chlorine, any chemicals. It's actually pretty much drinkable water.
As a global leader in his field, Paul's almost 30-year portfolio of work has won him several coveted design awards for architecture and innovation.
Paul, we've made our way to the bottom level of the home. Tell me about the space. Where do we find ourselves?
We're in the underground section of the house, and this was built to have a constant temperature. It's got an earth sheltering aspect, built entirely from rocks and sand and mud from the site. But even on the side, you'll see some of the existing underground stonework being exposed. So the advantage of this is it's really got a constant temperature. Because of the aspect of the land, we've managed to get natural light into all the rooms. This main room we're in now, we've got light coming in from above. I have a light shaft that runs all the way through the floor above and onto the roof, brings in light, and it also extracts the hot air.
You know, growing up in mainstream media, we get bombarded with the idea of a dream home. But you've been able to rethink this idea and bring it to life in a different way.
This space we're in now, it really fires people's imagination, and it's been really rewarding to me to bring people into this space and see their eyes light up. We're creating spaces that actually uplift us. You want to be in a place that improves your mood. You know, that's what we want to build. When we follow fashion, we're actually following somebody else's idea. You know, that idea worked for them, but it may not necessarily work for you. And it's really not very good to start living our lives through the ideas of other people.
For someone like me who does want to go green, what would you say? How best to occupy that eco-friendly consciousness?
One of the things that helped me a lot was speaking obviously to old people, because when you do green, you really want to understand the climate that you're living in. You know, it might be sort of nice and warm at the time, but if you speak to old people, they will actually remember periods when the climate was different. They have a lot of advice. The other one is to look at vernacular architecture, the architecture that was here in the region and how people inhabited it. That'll also give you a lot of clues to how you can inhabit the space.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, and hopefully we'll be visiting you again soon.
No, my pleasure, and I hope to see you soon.
On behalf of our planet, thank you, Paul, for playing your part in preserving it.
We genuinely need more people to do so. So thank you for being a shining example.